The Galactic Council had ruled for 17 million years. They had watched empires rise and fall like waves upon an endless shore. They had seen species evolve from primitive creatures into spacefaring civilizations. They had witnessed wars that burned entire star systems to ash. Nothing had ever truly threatened their absolute control over the known universe. Nothing had ever made them feel fear. That changed when they discovered Earth. Admiral of the Empire stood before the Council's great assembly. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he presented his findings to the 12 ruling species. His voice trembled as he spoke words that would forever change the course of galactic history. "The humans have built something impossible," he said. "They have constructed warships the size of planets." Laughter filled the grand chamber. The ancient beings who ruled the galaxy found this claim absurd. No species could build vessels of such magnitude. The resources required would drain entire solar systems. The engineering challenges alone would take millions of years to solve. The Council dismissed Admiral as a fool spreading panic over nothing. 3 standard galactic cycles later, the Empire ceased to exist. Humanity had been discovered by accident. A scout ship had wandered into an uncharted region of space and stumbled upon a small blue planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star. The scouts had observed the primitive civilization below and marked it for future conquest. Earth's inhabitants seemed unremarkable. They had only recently achieved space travel. They were confined to their single solar system. They posed no threat whatsoever. The scouts returned home and filed their report. Earth was added to the long list of worlds scheduled for eventual colonization. The Empire had conquered thousands of such planets. This one would be no different. But they made a critical error. They underestimated humanity's greatest strength. Humans were not the fastest species in the galaxy. They were not the strongest. They were not the most intelligent by conventional measures. But humans possess something far more dangerous than any of these traits. Humans refused to accept limitations. When the first invasion fleet arrived at Earth's doorstep, they expected easy victory. Instead, they found the entire human species united for the first time in its history. Every nation had set aside its differences. Every resource had been pooled toward a single goal. Every brilliant mind had been focused on one question: how could humanity survive? The answer: they created all known physics. Dr. Sarah had proposed the theory. Her colleagues had called her insane. She suggested that rather than building fleets of small ships, humanity should construct a single vessel of unprecedented scale. A ship so massive that it would generate its own gravitational field. A ship that could carry the entire human population if necessary. A ship that would make humanity mobile and unstoppable. They called it the Ark of Defiance. Construction began in secret within the asteroid belt. Every factory on Earth worked around the clock producing components. Every mine extracted resources at maximum capacity. Every scientist contributed their expertise. The project consumed everything humanity had. It took only 12 years to complete. The invasion fleet arrived expecting to find a helpless primitive world. Instead, they found themselves facing a warship larger than their home planet. The Ark of Defiance measured 40,000 kilometers in diameter. Its hull was forged from compressed neutron star matter harvested from a nearby pulsar. Its weapon systems drew power directly from an artificial singularity contained within its core. Its shields could withstand the combined firepower of 10,000 conventional warships. Its main cannon could crack a planet in half with a single shot. The fleet did not survive first contact. News of the defeat spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Council convened emergency sessions. They demanded explanations. They accused of incompetence. They refused to believe that a species barely capable of reaching their own moon could have built such a weapon in so short a time. Then humanity sent them a message. "We did not ask for this war," the transmission began. "We did not seek conflict with your empire. We wished only to live in peace upon our world. You forced us to become something else. You taught us that the galaxy respects only strength. We have learned this lesson well. Now we will teach it to others." The Council responded by assembling the largest military force in galactic history. 12 species contributed their mightiest warships. 3 million vessels gathered at the border of human space. They carried weapons capable of destroying stars. They believed their combined might would be sufficient to crush this upstart species. They were catastrophically wrong. Humanity had not been idle during the years since the first invasion. The Arc of Defiance was only the beginning. While the Council argued and debated, humans had been building. They had constructed not one planet-sized warship but 12. Each vessel was named after a concept that humanity held sacred: hope, courage, determination, vengeance, justice, freedom, unity, sacrifice, honor, glory, triumph, destiny. The 12 ships emerged from hyperspace simultaneously. They formed a wall of metal and fire that blocked out the stars themselves. The Council's fleet froze in terror. Their sensors could not fully comprehend what they were seeing. Each human vessel massed more than most inhabited worlds. Each one carried enough firepower to sterilize entire star systems. The battle lasted less than one standard hour. 3 million warships were reduced to expanding clouds of debris. The Council's combined military might was erased from existence in the time it took some species to eat breakfast. Not a single human ship suffered significant damage. The weapons of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations had bounced harmlessly off human shields. Panic swept through the Council's territory. Entire populations fled there. Military commanders committed suicide rather than face the approaching human fleet. Governments collapsed overnight. Alliances that had endured for millions of years shattered like glass. Humanity did not stop advancing. The 12 planet ships spread across the galaxy like angels of destruction. They appeared without warning above capital worlds. They broadcast simple demands for unconditional surrender. Those who were spared, those who resisted were shown no mercy. Admiral, daughter of the woman who had designed the first Ark, commanded the fleet from aboard the Destiny. She watched through the bridges massive as another civilization crumbled before her. Part of her felt sorrow for what humanity had become. They had been forced to transform themselves into conquerors. They had built weapons that made gods seem powerless. They had become the very thing they once feared. But another part of her felt something else entirely: pride. Humanity had spent its entire existence being afraid. They had feared the darkness between stars. They had feared what might lurk in the vast emptiness of space. They had feared that they were alone. They had feared that they were not. Now the galaxy feared them instead. The hunted had become the hunter. The Council's core worlds fell one by one. Ancient civilizations that had endured since before Earth's sun had formed knelt before human might. Species that had considered themselves the masters of reality discovered they were merely tenants in a universe that now belonged to someone else. The final confrontation occurred above Nexus Prime, the Council's sacred. This was where galactic law had been written. This was where the 12 ruling species had gathered for 17 million years. This was the heart of everything they had built. All 12 human planet ships assembled in orbit. They formed a ring around the world that had once controlled the destinies of trillions. The Council's last defenders stood ready to die for their masters. 300,000 warships faced impossible odds with courage that even their enemies admired. Admiral offered them one chance to surrender. She did not want more bloodshed. She did not desire the complete annihilation of the galaxy's oldest civilizations. She hoped that wisdom would prevail over pride. The Council rejected her offer. The battle for Nexus Prime lasted 3 days. It was the most destructive conflict in galactic history. Stars were extinguished. Planets were shattered. Entire regions of space were rendered uninhabitable by the forces unleashed. The Council threw everything they had at the human fleet. They used weapons forbidden since ancient times. They sacrificed millions of their own people in desperate attacks. They fought with the fury of those who know they are facing extinction. It was not enough. When the fires finally faded, only the human ships remained. The Council's fleet had been completely destroyed. Nexus Prime itself had been cracked open by the final bombardment. The ruling chamber where 12 species had once debated the fate of billions was now exposed to the vacuum of space. Humanity had won. Admiral stood in the ruins of the Council's great hall. Her boots crunched against debris that had once been priceless artifacts. She looked up through the shattered dome at the stars beyond. Those stars now belonged to humanity. Every world that orbited them would acknowledge human authority. Every species that dwelled upon them would live under human protection. The galaxy had collapsed under the power of humanity's planet-sized warships. An empire that had endured for 17 million years had fallen in less than 2 decades. The impossible had become reality because one small species had refused to accept the limits others tried to impose upon them. In the years that followed, humanity proved to be surprisingly merciful rulers. They did not enslave the conquered species. They did not demand tribute beyond what was reasonable. They did not impose their culture upon others. They simply asked for peace and cooperation. They asked for the opportunity to grow and explore alongside the galaxy's other inhabitants. Some said humanity had always been destined for this role. They pointed to human history and saw patterns of overcoming adversity. They noted how humans had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that should have destroyed them. They argued that no other species possessed humanity's combination of creativity, determination, and adaptability. Others believed it was simply luck. Humans had been in the right place at the right time. They had been pushed to the edge and had responded with innovation born from desperation. Any species might have done the same given similar circumstances. The truth was probably somewhere between these extremes. Admiral eventually retired to a small colony on the outskirts of human space. She spent her final years tending a garden and watching the sunset over alien mountains. Sometimes she thought about the civilization she had helped destroy. Sometimes she wondered if humanity had made the right choices. Sometimes she felt the weight of all the lives lost during the Great War. But mostly she felt grateful. Grateful that her species had survived. Grateful that her children would grow up in a galaxy where humanity was safe. Grateful that the small blue planet where everything began still orbited its ordinary yellow star, unchanged by all that had happened. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity announced its presence. The sight of those 12 impossible warships would haunt countless nightmares for generations. The power that humanity had demonstrated would reshape galactic politics forever. But it was not fear that would ultimately define humanity's legacy. It was the understanding that sometimes the smallest players become the biggest forces in the game. It was the knowledge that limits exist only for those who accept them. It was the truth that the universe belongs to those bold enough to claim it. Humanity had claimed its place among the stars. Nothing would ever threaten that position again. The galaxy had learned its lesson well.